Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mean Green Game Day. I'm your host Armando Berry, and I'm here with the best group in the world. Connor Hibbett, Justin Ballou, Michelle Brooks, and Rachel Dickens. The women's game against Southern Miss was canceled last night and ruled no contest due to our winter weather that took place. Michelle, I want to go to you on this one. How do you think this cancellation really affects their chances going forward in this final stretch for playoff position?
Well, I know that there has been questions around this Mean Green team here and there about when they get into slumps, when they're not playing games, or when they've been losing or when they've been winning. Well, they're on a 6-game win streak, and I have every confidence in the world in them right now because not having to play that Southern Miss game was almost like, okay, we can breathe. They needed to win that game because they're tied both at the top of the West Division at 8-6, so it would have come down to head-to-head had North Texas not, pulled through. So they have that on them, which gives them just a little bit more time to stay super focused on a La Tech team who, they played closely with in January, but...
And talk a little bit more about, they didn't just save some miles, but they saved some energy in that trip. Talk a little more about that.
Well, okay, yeah. So here's the thing, too, that plays a big role, especially I think at this time of the year, because teams are tired. It's the end of the season, but you need to keep your momentum going. They had a long trip planned for this. So they were supposed to fly down to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi, drive 2 hours to Hattiesburg on a bus, and then take that bus to Ruston, drive from Ruston back to UNT, and finish their trip like that. So that was just going to be almost 10, 12 hours on the road on a bus. No team wants to be on the road like that. Not only that, then yesterday or Wednesday, when they still thought that they were going to make the Southern Miss game, the airport told them that they could make the flight for sure. They get to the airport says, sorry, you can't get on this flight. We don't have de-icer. We can't get the door to the plane open. So these girls have kind of been through some pain, but they were right back in the Super Pit. I saw them after the men's shoot around on Wednesday, refocused, looking at Louisiana Tech. I think that despite all the crazy travel plans, this is the time for them to get ready.
One nice thing is Thursday, La Tech had a really long game against Rice. They ended up going to double overtime, so that's one nice thing is they're going to have fresh feet. They're going to have fresh players. They're all going to be fresh after having to play that long game, though. It's going to be kind of difficult for them to get there, and then they also have to travel here, so that's going to also be interesting to see how that affects them.
And Michelle, you brought this up a couple weeks ago on the show. You said that when the women come upon adversity, sometimes when they have like a multiple games of adversity, it's kind of hard for them to get back on track. So even though it hasn't really been on the court, off the court, how do you think this has affected them mentally? Because they have faced their adversity with the weather, so do you think they're going to be able to get back on track right away?
Well, that's the thing about this team, again, is we've seen them develop as a unit a lot this season. I mean, they're night and day from just a few games ago even. So seeing them now, even just their camaraderie as teammates and stuff, the vibes are so good. The culture is so good in this program. I think that they're super hyper-focused. I was listening to Jazz Jackson on the coach's show earlier this week, and she said, they are good to go. It finally feels right. Everyone knows what they're doing, and I believe it. I'm not worried about this. I think that they're really focused. This is good momentum, not only for them, but because the men also have good momentum. There's a lot of energy at the school right now and around this team.
Both
and
our
it's
teams
what
are on
you
winning
need.
streaks. It's insane.
That's right. Combined 19-game win streak for these two teams. So
but this week was going to be really tough for the women, though, playing at Southern Miss, like you said, the tough road trip, and then playing La Tech, who's in third place. This cancellation really helps them out, and this almost goes down as a win, because like you said, they keep the head-to-head to stay in number one in the division. So if the season ended today, they'd be that 1 seed. And the division was probably going to come down to tomorrow's game against La Tech regardless, but they get 2 extra days. They get to stay at home and prep for this game. I think it's a win.
Absolutely. Hey, Justin, if you're not losing, you're winning in my book. And speaking of winning, as expected, our men's Mean Green basketball team won big last night against the Golden Eagles, 85-61. This one we kind of saw it coming. We thought it was going to be a blowout. It was. Not too much to pick out of importance. You see Thomas Bell got to the free throw line a lot, made his free throws this time. Must have hurt you out.
Yes.
And then Graham McCastle in 100 wins, very stormy thing for him. Justin, what do you think that we can pick out as far as something that we can really look at and cherish about this
Well,
game?
obviously, the 100 wins for Coach Mack is huge. He's probably one of the best, probably the best UNT basketball coach in all of all
100%
time.
sure about that. Yeah.
100%. But, I mean, this game really just went exactly as we thought. UNT came in with the mentality of we're going to just take care of business, dominate, play our game, and get out and focus on Saturday, and that's really what they did. Southern Miss did score 61 points in this game, though, which will actually increase UNT's scoring defense numbers and may take them out of #1 scoring defense in the nation. But again, it's a blowout. You scored 98 points. I mean, Tyler Perry, I thought, didn't have the best game. I don't know if he's still maybe lingering on that injury, that groin injury a little bit, but not the best game out of him. He still had 14 points. So that just shows how great of a player he is. But really great three-point defense again. That was huge in this game. There were 3 of 11 the Golden Eagles were from downtown, and which was huge situationally in this game because they were just chucking up threes trying to get back in this game, especially in the first half, and just being able to pressure them and have them miss those was really huge. And how about Abu Usman? I mean, 21 points, sets a career high, shoots 7 of 9 from the field, 7 of 10 from free throws. Just a great game out of him. They were missing Tyler Stevenson, their big man down low, and that really hurt them. Abu was able to take advantage of some of those mismatches. So great game out of him, exactly how we thought this game would go.
Something that we've nitpicked on this show multiple times has been the free throw shooting, and that was not a problem last night. I love that, and that's what really separates the really good teams from the tremendous teams that can make a run, especially when you get into late February and into March with the conference tournament and hopefully the NCAA tournament. So you are either abysmal or abysmal from the free throw line, and Abu was terrific last night. He had a really good stroke. You could tell his confidence was there. He didn't hesitate. You could tell he was very decisive when he got to the free throw line. I mean, he was so focused, so chimed in. 7 of 8, and then he missed his last couple. Barely missed them. Sometimes that'll happen. But it was a terrific night, really all around. I thought in the second half we could have played a little bit better tempo. I thought we kind of got out of our game, but maybe that was because we were just kind of in cruise control at that point. So that's kind of being nitpicky from a 24-point win.
And UNT shot 34 free throws in this game too. Like for a team that shoots as many free throws as we do, if we could just up this percentage by like 5%, I think would be set. But Abu Usman really has progressed this season offensively and defensively, and it's just free throw shooting has been the one thing holding back his game. So it was really nice to see him shooting 70% out there last night.
So one thing to worry about with this team, though, the last few weeks we've seen their fouls go up, which is a huge thing. We saw Bell foul out against UAB, and these are things you can't actually have. And with the defense being so critical to this team, they're going to have to fix that. And going into the next game, especially with La Tech and Bell and Usman both not needing to foul out in such a big game.
Well, and the thing is, it's like Southern Miss is on paper a poor team, and they're not very good out there on the court either. But they did have some players out. Not having Stevenson was a big thing. They had to change up their lineup for the first time in 4 games, which says a lot. So you had Waylon Napper come in and kind of turn it up for this team. And, you know, you said they came in and would just shoot the ball, whatever it was. And assistant coach Ross Hodge for UNT yesterday, he said they play with a level of freedom because they have nothing to lose. So that was the one thing that you were kind of watching UNT, because we saw, was it Louisiana Tech get really close with Rice last night because they are just kind of lackadaisical with it almost, you know.
Looking ahead.
Right, looking ahead. And you saw UNT not do that.
And that was sort of the worry going into this game. Like you said, playing against a team that has nothing to lose. It's a sandwich game between the UAB huge game and then La Tech. So this could have been an easy look-ahead spot, but credit them for just taking care of business and getting out of there with a win.
Absolutely. They could have fallen apart in the second half, but you know, Southern Miss kind of came out fast, started the second half. UNT took a timeout a few minutes in. Then there was a immediate timeout, and then after about the first 4 or 5 minutes, UNT got a lot of stuff put together, and they were able to keep that lead. So that was really impressive.
Yeah, you kind of saw them get out of their system a little. I think that they were just having fun. I know it's kind of a weird term to say, but when you have really good teams like that and they play a team that's not so good on game day, their energy is just a little different. Even at the shoot-around yesterday, they were playing a lot of games back and forth. It wasn't very business-like, which is fine. But yeah, you could tell it's just at a half, you had to refocus. That's the key, though, is that they have to make sure that they aren't that team, and they have to stay that team that plays the entire game. And I'm not fearful that they will, but once you start playing really good teams, that is something you have to worry about.
Absolutely. And real quick, with the play of Reuben Jones, Mardrez McBride, and Tyler Perry, how important do you think those guards playing well going into the final stretch would be? Real quick.
I think it would be huge. I mean, Reuben Jones especially, we've seen so much out of that kid lately. He is a motor, and every guy on this team is a motor. Having that many shooters on this team, every guy can do something. It's that next man up mentality, and I'm feeling really good about all sides of the court right now for this team.
And the half-court offense keeps improving. We're playing really well as a team. We're moving, we're spacing. It's not just a one-man show. So that's also really important moving forward.
Absolutely. With the postseason just 3 games away, we're going to take a look at where the Mean Green may find themselves in March Madness when we come back. Thanks for sticking around on Mean Green Game Day. With the men's team currently sitting at 21-4 on the year, it's looking pretty likely we're going to be dancing again at the NCAA tournament. So we're going to look ahead and see where we might end up this year. We took a look at some of these brackets that have come from the sports world leading bracketologists, and right now, they all four that we looked at had us at the 12th seed. But I kind of want to talk about, Justin, what it might take for us to get maybe a better position moving forward to maybe a 10 or 11. What do you think about
Well, right now UNT is 38th in the net, which if the rankings or for the tournament were just based off net rankings, that would put UNT at a 9 seed. I think realistically speaking, as a mid-major, UNT wins out from where they're at now, finish 24-4 in the regular season plus the 3 tournament games, 27-4. I think that puts you at a 10 seed. I don't see UNT getting a 9 seed because 9 seeds are usually at larges from Power 5s. So I think realistically, you win out, you're a 10 seed. If you lose a game along the way, I think you're staying at an 11 seed, maybe even a 12 where they have us now.
So playing Alabama maybe from the SEC could be a real possibility because Alabama right now is projected to be a 5 seed. And what's interesting about that matchup, if you want to get into the matchups, is Alabama plays to their opponent's level. Very inconsistent this year. They've lost, one of their conference losses in the SEC has been to Georgia, which is Georgia's only win in the SEC. So Alabama's a team that plays down to their competition and plays up to their competition. We saw them give Kentucky a really good game at Kentucky, and Kentucky hasn't lost a home game all season. So I think UNT could have a really good shot if they were to play a team like an Alabama.
I think the only thing about moving up in the thing is it's not on us completely, it's on other teams. So if it depends on seeing those those usually Power 5 conferences, have those teams go down, lose those games, and have those quad win ones and quad 2 wins not go their way. So that's a big thing for at least us moving up. I think we get to an 11 seed at the highest, though.
And like I was gonna say, like Connor, like you said earlier, we are projected to either play Alabama, and a lot of brackets had us also against Houston. Which matchup do you see you like a little bit better, or how do you feel like we would fare against a team like Houston, who went to the Final Four last year?
I definitely think we have a better shot of beating Alabama, matching up better with their tempo. But Houston's tempo, I just don't see us matching up very well against them. They are a tremendous rebounding team, and I think we're getting better. I think we are definitely more physical than we were last year down low, but I don't think the tempo really favors UNT as much in this game. I just don't like the way we match up. I think we could give them a good game because we play really good defense, and I'm not really impressed with Houston's half-court offense as much. They're a team that likes to make you run, and that's my scare of that game, is because if Houston starts to make us run play out of our game, because we play the slowest tempo in the country, I'm not sure if we can keep up with them.
Yeah, the tempo is really what sticks out with Houston. They lost one of their best players, Marcus Sasser, back in December, and they've really had to adjust to his absence. He was one of their leading scorers this year and last year on that Final Four team. But, I mean, Houston has a really impressive resume. They're 0-3 in Quad 1, but they're 7-1 against Quad 2, so that puts them at 7-4 in the first 2 quads. And they've got a top 10 scoring defense in the country. Kind of similar style of play to UNT, but it's just that pace, and they're so physical. They'll press you whenever you're struggling against the press, and UNT does struggle against the press. So I don't like that matchup at all. But I mean, Alabama has been all over the grid this year. They're 18-10. They have wins against Gonzaga, Houston, Tennessee, Baylor, and then losses against Iona, Memphis, Davidson, Missouri, and Georgia. Like you said, I mean, this is crazy. And so with how they've been playing against mid-major teams this year and teams that they should beat, I think UNT can compete with Alabama easily.
But one thing to bring up is Alabama and Houston have already played each other this year. Bama actually beat Houston by 1 earlier in their year. So I'm a little worried about Bama, but the one thing about Alabama is that they're kind of like Purdue in that way of just they're offensive-minded. Their defense is more of a second thought. So if Alabama doesn't have a great offensive game, that game could potentially go to us, and we could potentially see ourselves in the round of 32.
And they're a streaky team. They'll make 4 threes in a row, and then they'll have an empty 5 minutes worth of no points, no field goal made. So if UNT frustrates Alabama, which they are very capable of doing with their really good team defense, that is a team that UNT could beat.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When teams are streaky and they come in, shooting 5 straight 3-pointers, making them, and they go on just droughts, that's what UNT has success against on defense. Yeah. That's why I like that matchup. Houston's really just an efficient team. They're going to be disciplined no matter what. Even when they're struggling, they're still hard to beat. Alabama, when they're struggling, they just get into a slump, and you can really do anything you want against them. But Alabama, I like that matchup.
Like if Alabama ever, let's say we happen to play Alabama and Alabama makes the first 3 shots of the game, they're up 9-0 in the blink of an eye. That's okay because they'll have a span of 4 minutes where they're just taking half-court shots. I mean, their shot selection can be so bad at times. And honestly, I've seen that out of a lot of the Southeastern Conference teams, the shot selections from those teams. Tennessee's good. Auburn is just really, really talented. Kentucky, when they have their point guards, they've been injured a lot this season, but when they're fully healthy, they're a very dangerous team.
And real quick, Connor, I want to catch you on this one on the fly. Just, I know you like this bracketology stuff. Whenever you look at just the field in general, if you can wipe away just sides and everything, on that 10 or 12 matchup of We're Mean Green, who would you want to see us the most? Not just Houston or Alabama that we're projected against, but anybody in the field.
Well, I really like Alabama matchup. That's a matchup that Justin and I have been talking about for a couple of months now. I also wouldn't mind having a UCLA, because I think UCLA plays down to their competition's level. Michelle, you may have more on that.
Yeah, well, the thing about UCLA too is when they have lost, besides that triple overtime with Arizona State recently, it's been 66 or less points scored. So I think, if you look at a UNT defense, you have some favor there. And I think it could just be a really exciting game in general. I don't know, UNT could have a nice little run. How do y'all feel about them going to the second round?
I like UCLA, actually. I agree. Last night they just lost to Oregon. They like to play down to their opponents. They have this bad tendency of not doing well in the big games. And right now, I mean, they're 12 in KenPom, but I mean, if you look at the victories they have had, haven't really had any major victories to anyone. I mean, they've lost to Arizona. They've lost to Oregon, then they've lost to they've lost to USC. So it's very interesting to see what they've done. And then it's not very good in the Pac-12 anyways.
And then here's a possibility. I mean, if UNT is in a favorable region, which I think they definitely could be, if we had, let's say, Alabama, and we upset Alabama, then there's a chance that, let's say, UCLA, same struggles as Alabama, they play down to their competition's level, they lose to New Mexico State, and then as a 12 seed, we play a 13 seed, and we get to the Sweet 16.
I would love a UNT New Mexico State matchup personally. I mean, they have some players on their team. I think it could be just a really high energy game. That's a good program right there. That would be really exciting.
They almost beat Auburn a few years ago. Auburn, when they went to the Final Four back in 2019, and they should have beat Virginia, who ended up winning the national championship that year. New Mexico State was one shot away from beating Auburn. They had a three-pointer at the end of the game that almost went in. So New Mexico State's a dangerous team.
I like us to get through the first round of madness, especially with any of these matchups. Last year, beating Purdue last year, and you see how good Purdue is now. They returned basically all their players. Their offense is insane. Last year, no one thought we were going to win that game, and they did. And Villanova had just a great shooting game, and I think UNT had a chance to win that game just if Villanova wasn't unconscious. And I think this UNT team this year is better than last year's team.
I was going to say
with
this
a bunch
UNT
of new players.
team. Yeah, this UNT team last year against Gonzaga, I think, would have really, really played well. So
the one problem is, are we worried that we're peaking too early? That would be the problem. You have this win streak now. Do you want to lose to UTEP, say, in that last game, just so you're not coming in? Because UNT is going to have a target on their back for this USA tournament, especially if they're coming in with 16 straight wins if they win out. So, we're going to be the team to beat in this USA tournament. So it just might be worrisome that we're peaking too early.
Well, personally, as a fan, I feel like every single game right now, UNT is the team to beat, and it gives me extra anxiety for this team. Even a Southern Miss team that's terrible is such a threat because you are the team to beat by every single person.
So it's like you want to finish undefeated on the road, but it's like that UTEP game you may just want to drop, because last year they lost 2 against UAB in the last 2 games of the season. They went on that run.
You
Losses
don't want to
motivate
lose.
this team.
You don't want to lose at UTEP. You do not want to lose in Don Haskins Arena. I think that it will mess with your head. That is a historic, legacy-filled arena. It's something different. It's huge. And I think that is a loss that you just do not want to have.
You learn a lot when you make these losses. when you look at the last loss we had it in January. We haven't lost since. But think of all the key things we learned from that loss. So in some ways, I think losing has great things that it can do to a team, but it also has bad things. So I kind of would prefer us not to lose at UTEP. But if we do lose, what can we learn?
Well, Justin, you're saying we need to lose. Well, look at that FAU game.
I'm not saying we need to lose.
But,
I'm just saying it may be better
but look
if
at
we're
that
not coming
FAU
in.
game, that close FAU game. I think that could have been the game that shook our confidence a little bit, just enough to refocus.
Is there any chance that UNT gets an at-large bid if they don't win?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, NCAA. You should change something about that.
It's one quad one win too against UAB. You only have, looking against these other 37 top teams in the nation. They just have more quad one wins, and that's just the unfortunate reality of being UNT.
Absolutely. Well, this game made a hit in its season debut last week, so we're going to bring it back. Stick around for CUSA Bowl of Takes coming up next.
I'll never forget the day our land
What's up, and welcome back to Mean Green Game Day. I'm your host, Armando Berry. I'm here with Justin Ballou, Connor Hibbett, Michelle Brooks, and Rachel Dickens. It was a hit last week, so we're going to bring it back in Conference USA version. That's right, it's the Bowl of Takes.
The Magic Bowl.
Ooh. I'm still a little nervous this week. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of pressure on this segment.
The bowl's not too hot?
No.
Okay.
All right, tell me when to stop.
So USA's pretty hot though.
Stop.
All right, first one of the day. Ooh, okay. UNT will be an at-large bid if they win the rest of their games, but lose the conference championship game. Justin?
We just talked about this. I think the two losses that really hurt the March Madness committee takes your big losses and your big wins into consideration. There's two games this season. That Buffalo game, the second game of the season at home, you drop. I believe that was a quad 3 loss. So it's really not you should have had that win. It's more just that loss hurts you. And then the Miami game in that ESPN Events Invitational Tournament too. You're in that game. You end up losing by a few points. That would have been a quad 2 win. So it's really just they've missed out on a few big win opportunities, and they have just one or two bad losses that really hurts their resume.
I think it kind of depends on how that loss happens in the conference championship.
For sure.
Say if it happens off a last-minute 3 or something major, I think that you could potentially see it. It kind of depends on other schools. I think it really depends on the Power 5 schools and how they rank them and what they think of them rather than what they think of us.
Losing on our last-second shot would be a taste of our own medicine.
Oh, that would be sickening.
But the hope would be that everyone above UNT in the net rankings, UNT again is at 38. The hope would be that all of those Power 5 schools beat each other up because they're all going to play each other in the conference tournaments. The Big East right now has a few teams above us. They'll all play each other. The Big 12 is going to beat itself up as it always does. Big 10 will too. So that's really just the hope is that the teams right above you in the net rankings kind of beat each other up. That would be your only hope for an at-large, I think.
Okay, on to the next. Okay, here we go. Got a little NBA action. Kenneth Lofton Jr. will eventually be drafted into the NBA.
I think we could see it. I mean, he's a great big man for Louisiana Tech. He makes a difference. He's best player on this team.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Too lofty of expectations.
You want me to take this one?
We saw Charles Bassey last year. His body is.
I get very
what
Charles
I
Bassey
mean?
vibes from him.
Kenneth Lofton doesn't have the body for the NBA. I'm not,
There
he's
you go.
a little bit overweight, but he's just that type of player. Just doesn't have
He's
success
so
at the
young
5
still.
position. He is.
But let me-
And if he can lose some of that weight like a Boo and still do what he's doing, then that's good. But Charles Bassey, he was 7'1" and lengthy. That's what the NBA wants at the 5 position, and that's not what Kenny Lofton is. But I could see him getting picked up by someone, just not drafted.
I think he could definitely get some interest, but if you look at the NBA, the way Kenneth Lofton's style of play as well as the type of player he is does not fit with the NBA, just as far as they're moving toward where the players who can pass, shoot, and dribble are the best, having the most success in the NBA. And with him, he gets most of his inside scoring and then a couple rebounds.
So you guys see him at the Legends
And
with
also at his
Javion
size.
Hamlet?
Oh gosh.
Probably.
That would be
That would be good.
But if you look at his size, also a lot of players who are at his height usually are more skinnier, more athletic guys. He's a bigger guy, 6'7", 2. I think it was 230 something or 270 something. And you saw how it's working with a similar player who's 6'7", 270 something is Zion Williamson. That is not looking too well when he's just having back-to-back surgeries, back-to-back injuries. So
That's the kind of thing
not,
that just deteriorates your body too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
his weight is so off balance, shifted on him.
with not near the same athleticism.
And
So
the
I
pace
can
of the
see him
NBA
tell.
is different too. It's not it's faster sometimes, slower sometimes, but I just don't think he would be able to keep up with where he's at right now.
Post or something really the NBA aren't looking for anymore. They're looking for more of a versatile player that can hit the 3, kind of like Kevin Durant, where you can see him go in for the post, but you can also see him hit the fadeaway, hit the Europe stuff.
They want 5 playmakers.
They want 5.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to see Kenny do a Euro tomorrow. I mean, that would be must-see television.
All right, here's something feisty. UTEP men's team will pull an upset in the CUSA tournament.
I could see that.
Yes, I see
100%.
because with how the bracket's lining up, UTEP's going to be 4th in the West Division, and then if they win their first round game against 4th from the East or 5th from the East Division, they would play Middle Tennessee. And I think Middle Tennessee is one of the teams that is sort of on upset watch in this conference tournament because they're really dominant at home. They've struggled away from home and on the road this year in true road games, and they're just one of those teams that doesn't have something that they can rely on. They're kind of like UNT in that they have a bunch of decent scores, a bunch of guys that they can
can
do
get a bucket.
Yeah,
Well, and the
they
win
can
streak
do
that
some
they're on.
good stuff. They just don't have something that they can rely on. And I think a team like UTEP that just will pick you apart if you struggle against them, then UTEP's going to pull an upset.
That's
I
the
think
thing
because
is-
Middle Tennessee is in the bracket.
Once UTEP gets going, I mean, it's hard to turn them off, and you have such big threats in Boom and Bienemy. I love that team. I've been talking about them all season with y'all. I feel like, and they're well coached. Joe Golding, and I feel like he is a tournament style of coach. He's really smart with it with his players.
And how truly good is Middle Tennessee? Because most of their wins have come against teams with a losing record. And then, of course, we know the West Division's much better than the East Division.
Right, they're sitting
so.
alone over there in the East Division, basically. I mean, if you had UTEP in the East, what we've been talking about, they would have been right sitting there with Middle Tennessee. So,
And it looks like Middle Tennessee is going to win the West, which means the 2 seed is going to be Western Kentucky, which means UNT is probably going to win the West Division. That second round game is going to be a rematch of last year with Western, and Western's going to be coming hot. So watch out. But I think UTEP definitely pulls an upset at some point in the tournament.
Yeah, Justin's been saying this about Western Kentucky now for a while. He's a little concerned about that. And I can totally see, because
That's the
anytime
one
you have a
team.
team
That's the one
that has a history of doing well, and as soon as you kind of write them off the map, like they're not serious, they're not serious contenders this year, that's when they start making the rise in the last couple
March
of games. So.
in the NCAA is everything means nothing. Everything means nothing.
That's why they call it March Madness.
I like that.
Exactly.
But before we go real quick to our break, I want to talk about this one. I'm not even going to spin it. I just want to talk about it real quick. Grant McCastle will retire at North Texas in a time of where coaches are moving so fast. Do you think that he can stay here with us, man?
Man, that's a
He will keep
really, really hot take.
I
would
don't
put that-
think that's happening.
But I
Grant
wanna keep
McCaslin,
him.
He's on his way
Out.
one day to hopefully be the head coach at his
Baylor.
own alma mater, Baylor Bears.
Oh, I
That
think-
is where his heart and soul is.
Coach
And
Ruben.
I think he could eventually end up there. He is one of the best coaches in the country.
And it's the day and age of the coaching carousel and the transfer portal. So players move where it best suits them. Of course, now you got the NIL, and then for coaches, it's all about the money. Well, not all about the money, but a lot of it is.
And he's been too successful at UNT and at a mid-major school to not receive a higher job. And UNT's future is looking bright too. So it doesn't look like UNT is going to be going anywhere with him at the head coach. And like you said, I believe Baylor is his end game. He always talks about Baylor in his press conferences. He brings up memories of him and Scott Drew. So I think that's where he ultimately wants to end up someday. But he definitely wants to be here now, and that's the good thing.
But regardless of what he chooses to do moving forward, I still respect him, obviously, because he's
He-
brought this up. We are a basketball school now. So.
Well, and that's the thing. He's a great coach and he's a great human being. I mean, last night, the 100 wins, we told him, don't tell us about your coaching staff. Tell us about what this means to you. He said, well, that means Zach Simmons was really good when he was here. That means DJ Draper was really good when he was here. That means Javion Hamlet shared the ball. I'm like, talk about yourself sometimes, because he is everything for this program.
And he was out scraping other coaches' cars, like to get to
To
the
get
game.
the
I mean,
ice off.
He's just a man of the people. He's a great guy, and I hope he retires here.
Very nice guy, very nice guy. All right, now that we've had our fun, let's go back to the future and check out our Mean Green predictions when we return. Thanks for sticking around on Mean Green Game Day. We're going to break down our previews and predictions for our women's team that is set to face Louisiana Tech in Ruston on Saturday. This is a matchup between the number 2 and number 3 seed in the West. It can make things very interesting and move in a division that is stacked like Jenga right now. Justin, I want to go to you on this one. What do we need to do to get to 8 straight? I still can't believe I'm saying that, but what can we do to get to 8 straight?
It's been an incredible winning streak, and I got to think that UNT is going to come in ready to play this game. 7-game win streak, going to a place, that's pretty hard to play, but you get to avoid that crazy road game earlier in the week, so you get 2 extra days of preparation for this game. You've got Amber Dixon now, the former La Tech transfer, going back home and playing in an arena against a team she knows very well. So I just think UNT is going to come in with something to prove and ready to play this game. They've had 2 extra days. La Tech played double overtime the other night, or last night, so I think UNT is going to come in ready to go.
Well, that double overtime you mentioned that La Tech played was against a Rice team especially, which is not something you want, and it took them a while to make that 10 points difference. They won 80-70. That is a very close game that you don't want going into a threatening game with UNT. I mean, it's good that UNT didn't have to play Southern Miss, but I feel like UNT would have taken care of the ball with Southern Miss rather than the way that Louisiana Tech did with Rice.
Also, you mentioned Dixon coming from La Tech. The only thing is last time they played, she was a little emotional, and sometimes that was a great thing, but sometimes that wasn't as good. She wasn't keeping herself in check. So I'd like to see her keep herself in check a little bit. But, I mean, bring in the emotion and fire to the rest of the team, though. That's really nice to see.
Well, the thing that I love about this Mean Green team is there's a lot of role players, and it really seems like everyone started to find their role, especially Amber Dixon. She, in the past few games, has started to take quite a few more shots, I feel like, than she was, and she's a lot more confident in her shot. They're falling, and sometimes it takes her a second to find her rhythm, but if you start her early, and usually that's what Jaylee Mitchell does on nights when she knows Amber Dixon matches up well here, she'll get going. So I am excited for this game for Amber Dixon. Ruston is a different kind of atmosphere to play in, though. I know you've been down to that stadium, Justin. So
yeah, it is. But I think with what you said, Rachel, I think it's one thing playing your own team at home. It's one thing going back to where you spent 3 years like she did. And last time they played La Tech in Denton, La Tech stomped on them pretty much, 72-60. Amber Dixon had 9 points in that game. Pretty good game from her, 4 of 9 shooting. UAB a few weeks ago, they played UAB. She scored 20 points. The last 4 games since then, she hasn't broken 9 points. So she's just kind of been inconsistent. But I see her, I think she's kind of due for a big game now. She's kind of like every 5 games or so has a breakout game. So this may be the one where she's due. Back in the place she knows well, hard environment though. So we'll see how she comes out.
And this is just a totally different team than what we saw a month ago, which is obviously a huge improvement. And one of my favorite things in all of sports is witnessing momentum and seeing how the tides can turn, the tables can turn with the improvement of a team and really the team play and everyone really understanding their role. And that's what we've seen. Like you mentioned, Michelle, the confidence has improved so much in this team, and you can just see it with the way they play on the court. It's one of my favorite things in all of sports is seeing the momentum. And obviously they have a lot, riding a 7-game winning streak, which is huge because you're going into a tough environment on the road. And Michelle, you said this a couple weeks ago. Whenever they have like a string of adversity, it's hard to get back on the winning track. But obviously they're on the winning track, so it's much easier to stay on it.
Well, and they've started to do things really right, and that's what it is. They're just making things work. And against this Louisiana Tech team, I think that they have probably studied them a lot because that was a loss that stung. And I think that they know now this is a team that we can beat. And I believe that this Mean Green team can beat them. We do need to see, complete performances from every single person on the court. Quincy Noble didn't have a huge game last Saturday. So, we've seen her go back and forth. But Jazz Jackson had an insane game, and I will stand by this statement. She is the motor, the beating heart, everything for this team. She makes the difference. You finally saw Allie Gamez really hit the board again. She had 16 or 17 points last Saturday, too. So it's good to see those people step up. We just have to make sure that we really need Quincy Noble. She had 25 points against Louisiana Tech in that loss, so we really need Quincy Noble.
It's really just it's really just get through this game, because next week you host UTSA and UTEP, who are not very good teams. So you're looking at 2 wins next week. It's really just get this win. You hopefully will win the West at that point. You're looking at a top 2 seed regardless at this point with that Southern Miss tiebreaker. So it's just like win this game. You get the momentum building. You probably will win 2 next week. So you can go in the Conference USA tournament red hot, just like our men's team.
I think in games like these, they become really, really tight. Of course, the players that we already know that are more notable, they're going to play great games. Quincy Noble, Ali Gomez, Jazzion Jackson. But who are some of the X factors that you want to see or could that UNT needs to be looking out for on the LA Law Tech side or from our side that can really become a focal point of this game?
Well, I think this game comes down to rebounding. Their forward, Anna Laura Robinson, scored 44 points in that double overtime game last night. Wow. She's one of their leading scorers, 14 points a game. She averages 9 rebounds a game. And she's not a huge girl, but she's just one of those sneaky, physical, tough girls that Madison Townley specifically really struggles against. So I'm looking at that matchup. I think it comes down to rebounding again. It's free throws and rebounding that really just make a difference in games, and that's what I think this comes down to. She's only 6'3", so Townley has that size advantage. She's just gonna have to bring her A game and get physical with her, specifically on rebounds.
And I think another X factor that I think is really important for me on our women's side is gonna be I forgot her first name, but her last name was Mallard.
Jalen Mallard.
Jalen Mallard, and then Kendall Magruder. I think Jalen Mallard, she's gonna be kind of the person who Jaylee Mitchell would assign to counter that rebounding.
Here is what I was about to say about that, Armando, is because in these last few games, you have seen Jalen Mallard down low on that defense, and she has locked every team up. She is playing extremely well, not fouling, and boxing out under the basket. So I really see Jaylee Mitchell going for her on Anna Laura Robinson tonight.
And she's kind of adjusted the lineup too, and she's having Tamisha Lampkin now step off the bench into that 5 role too, and she's been playing pretty well, 10 minutes a game around. So I like the rotation down at that center position. It's just really about consistency and, again, getting physical on a consistent basis. That's what it's about on rebounding.
So another player for La Tech to keep an eye on is Kiana Walker. She had 28 points in the victory over Rice last on double overtime, so that's a very important player to keep out. She was only 9 of 30, though, from the field, so that's something that I'd like to at least be cautious that she is going to at least try and shoot. Even if she doesn't make it, she's going to be a definite player to watch out for.
She kind of looks to shoot first. She definitely is that player that wants her points, but she hasn't been held to single digits one time this season, which makes her just a huge threat. She's averaging 18.6 points per game. She's 77% from the free throw line, which is a great stat. She's been shooting 41% from the field. And in that 27-point performance against Rice last night, she didn't shoot a single three-pointer. So she is really effective, and to say that she's not shooting the 3 ball and she's scoring that many points, it makes her a huge threat inside the paint. And so that's a key that you're going to have to watch. Quincy Noble's been really, really great at defense lately. I kind of gave her that J.J. Murray, crown last week, and I really think she's going to be all over Kiana Walker tomorrow, locking her up because she is a huge threat. Now, UNT did a really good job of defending against Savannah Wheeler, in this conference, another player who's averaging double-point games a bunch. So I think that you could really see Quincy Noble step up and shut down Kiana Walker, but she's a huge threat.
Definitely. I think another player that's going to be very important is, like I mentioned earlier, Kendall Magruder. I think because Quincy Noble is going to be very focused on the defensive side, and sometimes that takes away but for her point production when you have to focus much on the other side. And if you really look at our team, the only person who's really a great a shooter besides Quincy Noble that can really get offensive quick points when she's in the game is Kendall Magruder.
That's right. She has been so nice to see come in off the bench, shoot a couple threes a game. She knows her role. That's the thing. She's really good about coming in, working her way into the system where she's supposed to be. She shoots that 3, she shoots it nice, she gets subbed out and is back in, the next quarter, does the same thing in a few minutes. She has done a really good job of finding her way into this lineup that was already pretty set because she's a freshman.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to see her development. She can get hot. She had 5 threes against SMU, in non-conference play. So.
But these players also need to be aware of spatial awareness. Last time they played, there were a lot of turnovers that were from them getting stuck in the corner by defense or them just getting stuck in general. So I like to at least see if the ball handling is better and not get themselves into those spots again, and even keep the ball and even try and do other things with it rather than just dribble it, and just makes them make even a play for another player.
And Armando, it's always tough to be the sixth man or woman in this case on any roster because it's basically like you're getting second place. You know, like your
Except
coach
if
is
you're
basically,
Tyler Perry, right?
Well, right, except
Okay,
if you're Tyler
yeah,
Perry. But it's
we need to
basically like
clarify that.
you're good, but you're not good enough to be in the starting lineup. And it's so important that we have someone like Kendall McGregor that is bought into her role, comes in and provides a spark really anytime she's in the game. So that's always nice to see.
And I think providing a spark is going to be so key in this game because Louisiana Tech has multiple volume shooters. They're going to put up a lot of shots. They're going to get the shots. Whether they're shooting good or not, they're going to be getting their shots up. So UNT is going to have to play well as a team, and they're going to have to kind of take that crowd out of the game early on because they can't fall behind.
Well, you say multiple shooters, and the thing for this UNT team is we've kind of started to see those multiple shooters creep up when we're getting a little bit more playing time from Maddie Cleary, who we really hadn't seen a whole lot this season, and she got put in a little bit early last week on Saturday. So she shot the ball a couple times. She had a three. We had Chloe Callahan come in. She made a fantastic drive to the layup, got them on a Euro step. So we've kind of seen these players that are a little bit younger, that are almost the future of this team, come in and say, okay, I can score, and they're building their confidence, which is what you want to see, especially this later half of the season to finish the season.
And with all that being said, Michelle, who do you predict to win this game and why?
I think that it's going to be a rough, back and forth, tough game, especially down low. But I have UNT. They're on this streak, and they have finally found things that work. The system is going. And I believe, especially in Jazzion Jackson, having a really big game.
I think UNT as well. My only thing is fourth quarters, they have 11 points, so I got to go with UNT though.
Okay, on this side, who are y'all going with?
I think UNT bounces back in terms of the La Tech game. They just got stomped on that first game. They've been thinking about it, I think, since then. Again, 2 extra days of preparation. I think UNT gets the big road win.
I think UNT gets a road win as well. I think it's going to be a nail biter though.
I agree with you. I think our girls team, they really know who they are at this point, and I think they're going to be able to really pull through that win.
68-67 final score.
Oh gosh,
Let's see.
that's a nail biter.
Yeah.
And keep in mind the women's game is 3 hours after our men's game too, so all the fans can watch both
Yeah.
games. So this is a great Saturday lined up tomorrow.
Absolutely. Don't forget, we still have our men's team to preview that is going 13 wins strong. Stick around. Thanks for sticking around for Mean Green Game Day. I'm your host, Armando Berry, and I'm here with Michelle Brooks. Ooh, so many names you start to forget. Rachel Dickens, Connor Hibbett, and Justin Ballou. Our Mean Green are going to be facing Louisiana Tech at the Super Pit, and this matchup is one that never fails to amaze us. So many buzzer beaters after the years, always close games. We love to see it. And in my opinion, this is our last legitimate threat on paper to our 13 winning game streak for the rest of the season. But Connor, I want to go with you on this one. is this our last big game of the season that we need to really pay attention to?
Well, no, I think every single game is really, really important moving forward. You can never have that lackadaisical performance where it's like, this game doesn't really matter. No, every single game matters for UNT because they're, in my opinion, I think getting an at-large bid is kind of like a good, kind of like almost like a backtrack, because in case they don't win out, in case they don't win the Conference USA tournament, it's kind of nice to have something that you can rely on as okay, well, at least we still get the at-large, and you can't have that kind of mindset where it's like, this game doesn't matter, because if they have that mindset, they're not going to win out, and if they don't win out, they're not going to get the at-large bid.
And like you
obviously,
said,
Louisiana Tech is no, it's all right. Louisiana Tech is obviously a really big game, and then the UTEP game, I think, is going to be a game where some people may say, well, let's say we beat Louisiana Tech, or we lose to Louisiana Tech, we beat UTSA, so we've already won the division. You can't sleep on UTEP because
UTEP is a sneaky team. We were just talking about how they can
Exactly.
upset someone in the tournament. They might upset someone at the end of the season. That's definitely not what
and
you
every
want.
every single game is just so important for UNT with what they're playing for. So I'm not really a fan of that kind of mindset moving forward.
And like you said, Armando, this La Tech UNT matchup always delivers. And this game is actually bigger for La Tech because they're sitting right there in that 3 spot. They don't have the head-to-head tiebreaker against UAB because they lost and they still play UAB next week. So La Tech still has a lot in front of them, and this is a bigger game for them because UNT is predicted to win the conference. Like we said, I don't really think they're going to get an at-large bid. So I think this is a bigger game for La Tech. But I mean, it's senior day, celebrating a really good group of seniors. You have a 13-game win streak with a chance to win the division and celebrate a conference regular season title at home. So UNT's coming in motivated. I'm not saying that, but I just think La Tech is coming in more desperate to win this particular game than North Texas is, because UNT only has to win 1 out of their final 3 games to win the West Division. It's just a matter of if you want to celebrate at home, which obviously would be better, but they still play UTSA next week. So it's looking like they're going to win the West.
Yeah, and at this point, I think there's more to it than just winning the West. I think there's more at stake for UNT. I know what you're saying about Louisiana Tech, but I really got a feeling that Coach McCaslin behind the scenes, it's more than just winning the West. Yeah. There's more on this team's mind. I mean, they're on a 13-game winning streak. They're defending Conference USA champions. This team knows what it, last year, that was the breakthrough. Now they are the team to beat. They know who they are. Last year it was like we became a basketball school.
Yeah.
Now we are a basketball school. Everyone wants to beat us. UNT is a different kind of mindset right now than what they were a year ago.
Right.
So I want to go to y'all on this one. If Louisiana Tech does surprise us, because it has, we've had our fair share of runs with them. Say Louisiana Tech does surprise us. Is this their last chance for them to possibly make this a too-big conference, or is that conversation dead and gone?
I feel like that conversation is dead and gone. I've been saying this, for a couple weeks. Y'all know I feel extremely strongly that there is no chance 2 teams from the conference get into the NCAA tournament. It just doesn't happen from small conferences like this. And I don't think, even if UNT wins this conference, I don't see another team getting that bid, but I don't think anyone has played those strong enough out-of-conference games to warrant it either.
And Southern Miss 2012 was the last at-large CUSA team, and they were really good. Like, you have to be just a dominant mid-major team and CUSA team to be able to make the tournament.
And let's head back to the game now. What are going to be the key players that you see as far as this matchup that are really going to impact the game?
I mean, Kenny Lofton. When you think La Tech, you think Kenny Lofton. We talked about on previous show La Tech. They lost Isaiah Crawford, and they've had to adjust to his his season-ending injury, and they're running a lot of guard lineups, 4 guards primarily right now in their starting lineup. So it just really comes down to Kenny Lofton, facing Abu, facing Thomas Bell maybe on some mismatches. In that first matchup, Bell had a pretty good game, 21 points, and Kenny Lofton was guarding him some of that game. Kenny, though, in that game had 20 points, 11 rebounds, so he had a good game. But it's really just everything now that La Tech is doing offensively and defensively is about him because Isaiah Crawford's gone. So Kenny Lofton, obviously.
And real quick, I mean, you're talking all these nice things about Kenny, but you're going to be terrorizing this man during the game, so let's be honest here.
Perry made that last shot against Louisiana Tech. Obviously, he's going to get all the accolades, and obviously he's been a tremendous player for us. But Bell put the team on his back in those last few minutes against Louisiana Tech. I think this could be, last week I said it was going to be Perry's come out party. I think this week it's going to be back to Bell. I think Bell kind of has a performance to kind of put himself back on the map that we all had him in the preseason. So
well, and Justin, you're talking about all that guard play that they do, and UNT has really focused on their inside down low game with Thomas Bell and Abu Usman, and even last night Aaron Scott was getting some dump and dishes down low. So I think that that could play a big threat. Louisiana Tech hasn't seen an Abu play like this yet. And I have Abu playing really going off in this game again. I have him continuing his hot streak.
I think one thing you have to think about is a 3-point. I mean, La Tech, you obviously are going to have the points in the paint with Lofton. UNT, you're going to have the points in the paint with both Usman and Bell. But I really think this game goes down to the 3-point advantage. And it really depends on McBride for UNT, and I think Archibald or even Willis for La Tech, and seeing which one of them is going to have the momentum shift in their way and when it's going to be the most important for that time.
Well,
the
I do
thing-
think. Okay, you go.
well, I was going to say Amari Archibald is someone to watch from Louisiana Tech. He's 6'3", 185, not super big. He matches up just fine, but he has a bad taste in his mouth because after that buzzer beater shot by Tyler Perry, he was able to get that 3-shot off too, to win that game for Louisiana Tech. So not only that, he just really wants to come in here. He's really strong on the defensive rebound too. And Justin, you're talking about, games of rebounds, and those are huge. And he's shooting well too. So there are a couple threats on this court.
And I think that we talked a little bit about the rebounding, the free throws, the defense. I think that all comes down to Thomas Bell. It's a little bit of everything. He's a versatile guy. He does a little bit of everything. And I think that I'm with Connor on this one. I think he's going to be a very important player. And I think it's going to come down to some very clutch final free throws.
And he specifically, Thomas Bell's going to have a ton of smaller guards on him, just like they were in that first game. With La Tech not having Isaiah Crawford, they are a small team now, and there is going to be size advantages for UNT this entire game. Whoever Kenny Lofton isn't guarding is going to have a size advantage, whether that be Thomas Bell or Abu, like we saw last night having a size advantage. That's what it comes down to, and that's why I like UNT's chances in this game, just because they play guard lineup so well.
Imagine if Louisiana Tech still had Crawford, man. They
would be scary.
Maybe there would be a chance for a bid for Conference USA, a 2-bid team or a 2-bid conference, because if UNT were happen to win this USA tournament, Louisiana Tech would have the resume and maybe the net ranking. But
Michelle said it's dead and gone.
It's dead and gone.
It's right, yeah.
I'm telling
yeah.
you, it's
Didn't
dead and
mean to go
gone.
too
No
much off
2-bid,
track.
no 2-bid. Okay.
I mean, I think it's dead and gone for La Tech, but I don't think it's completely dead and gone for UAB with what they've done.
UAB has some bad losses, though. They lost to Old Dominion a couple
Marshall.
weeks.
That was Marshall's first conference win.
Yeah.
Let's get a little bit more focused on us, though. Besides Louisiana Tech, I didn't mean like that. Besides Louisiana Tech, though, what do you think the focus should be for this final stretch? Before we get to the CUSA tournament.
I think specifically for this game, it's just about finding those mismatches, because they're going to be there just like they were last night. I think for the tournament, like I said, I think it may be better if UNT loses a game sometime before the CUSA tournament, just so they're not coming in with their heads too high and with that target on your back. But I also want to see them playing dominant basketball. So it's kind of I kind of have two opinions here, and it could go either way, and I think either way it works out for UNT in the end, because I think they're going to be motivated for that tournament. It's just a matter of the level of motivation for teams to beat UNT in that CUSA tournament.
I'm with you on this one, Justin, because I'm not a fan of, I don't want to say meaningless wins, but wins that just aren't really important, because I think with basketball, I want to say it's not like the NBA where a lot of these wins it matters down in the end, because regular season doesn't matter, because this one, it does a little bit, because since it is a tournament, it's almost like football to where you need to peak at the right time. And I really, really hope that UNT isn't peaking now when they need to win those crucial crucial games in the CUSA tournament and in March Madness.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I mean, they've also, UAB and FAU last week were two games that, 1-point wins, just games where UNT wasn't going to win the game, and they just found a way, and that's what it's about with this team. So, I don't know. I like their chances with how they're playing, but it's also like if you lose a game, you're more motivated. That's just how it goes.
So what would be our thought, let's say that they win out the regular season, and then of course they win out the Conference USA Championship. What would be our thought going into the NCAA tournament if that were to happen?
I mean, you're hoping to perfect those small things in these games. I mean, you kind of got to see the free throw percentage. You saw that go up with Usman this last week. I'd also like to see turnovers go down at least some. But I mean, you're kind of just perfecting what you've already started. I mean, that's kind of like the entire season has been this defense. Perfect that defense, perfect everything, and it's just kind of getting those details right.
I think heading into the tournament, the one key is just you got to improve free throws just overall. You can't have Tyler Perry struggling. He had one bad game from the line. That's not going to continue. But you need Abu, Thomas Bell specifically. Those guys get fouled so much. Drez even shooting some threes sometimes. This team shoots so many free throws, and that's really the one key. If UNT gets to March Madness on this continued winning streak, I think your winning streak basically gets erased when you make the tournament because other teams have done the same thing. You're going to be facing a Power 5 team that's likely on a winning streak too. So I don't think it matters at that point. I think it's more for the CUSA tournament that I'll be worried having a winning streak for.
Absolutely. You know what they say, proper preparation prevents piss-poor performance. But let's get back to these predictions as far as Louisiana Tech. Who do you think is going to win this game and why?
I think UNT takes it. I think they want to celebrate at home. This is going to be tough to get 4 straight wins against La Tech. Pretty good team. Like I said, they're coming in with something to prove. But I just think UNT is going to find those size mismatches that they did in that first game. They only had a 1-point win. Now I think going for a championship at home, your home arena, it's going to be going crazy tomorrow night, almost a sellout.
Absolutely.
This is going to be insane, and I think the Mean Green get it.
I think UNT wins as well, and I think Thomas Bell has a great game.
I think UNT wins as well, but I think it's going to be a really close game. You got to watch those fouls. I don't want anyone in trouble early, especially Thomas Bell. He's someone who tends to get in trouble early, so got to be careful that you can't get Louisiana Tech get on that 15-0 run that they had at a half last meeting. So it's just little things. Play your system, play your game, be the team we know you are. UNT's got the game.
I think UNT, I think second chance points are though where you're going to have to be aware and have UNT win that battle ultimately, and even the rebound battle. So I say UNT though.
I agree with you all. I think UNT is going to win the whole tournament. No, I'm just kidding. But thanks for watching Mean Green Game Day. Make sure to come out and support your Mean Green on Saturday and tune in next Friday at 3 for our next episode. See you next time.